I fell for my sister's best friend, Sophia Cole. She was like a perfect summer peach, sweet and intoxicating. And for a little while, in secret, she was mine. Until the day I stood outside a party, listening through a cracked open door, and heard her say to my sister, "With him, it's just for fun. Nothing serious." A chill went through me that had nothing to do with the air conditioning, and I pushed the door open. My name is Ethan Hayes. I'm 22, fresh out of college. I have a secret. I'm sleeping with my older sister Chloe's best friend, Sophia Cole. Sophia is 25, the director at one of the top design firms in the city. She's a study in contrasts. Out in the world, she's a force of nature. A powerhouse in stilettos, with a gaze that could cut glass and a presence that parts crowds. But with me, all that armor melts away. She'd curl up in my arms like a lazy cat, rubbing her cheek against my jaw and calling me Effie in a voice that was pure honey. I knew there were gaps between us: age, status, experience. So in public, we kept our distance. I was just Chloe's kid brother. She was just Chloe's best friend. Nothing more. But in private, the air between us was thick and electric. She loved my abs. After I'd been to the gym, she'd traced the lines of my stomach with her cool fingertips, her eyes narrowing in satisfaction like the cat that got the cream. "My Effie is looking better and better," she'd murmur. Then she'd stand on her toes and press a warm, possessive kiss to my throat. And I would get lost in the scent of gardenias that always clung to her skin, completely and utterly gone. I thought we were in love. I was already planning our future. Once I got my career off the ground, I was going to ask her to marry me, to turn her from my sister's best friend into my wife. Until today, it's my sister Chloe's birthday party, held at an exclusive private club in Manhattan. The place is buzzing, filled with the clinking of champagne glasses and the low hum of important conversations. As the brother of the birthday girl, I was running around, making sure everything was perfect. "Effie, can you go see if Sophia's here yet?" She just texted saying she was stuck in traffic, Chloe asked, gliding past me with a flute of champagne. I nodded, a little thrill running through me. Hearing her name felt like a secret between us, even when someone else said it. I walked to the entrance, just as a cherry-red Porsche pulled up to the curb. Sophia stepped out. She was wearing a black slip dress that clung to every perfect curve, her pale skin glowing against the dark fabric. Her long hair was in soft waves, her lips painted a fiery red. The moment she appeared, she owned the sidewalk. She was the center of gravity for every eye in the vicinity. But her gaze cut straight through the crowd and landed on me. A slow smile spread across her face, a secret message only I could decipher. My heart skipped a beat. I walked over, taking her purse from her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You made it," I said, my voice low, laced with an intimacy only we understood. Did you miss me?" She leaned in close, her warm breath ghosting across my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. "No," I lied, trying to look cool, but I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. She just watched me, a low, sultry laugh bubbling in her throat. Halfway through the party, Chloe grabbed Sophia's arm. "Come on, let's go catch up in the lounge. Girl talk." I watched them walk away, arm in arm, a familiar pang of jealousy twisting in my gut. I knew they were best friends, but sometimes I hated it. I hated that Chloe could have all of her, so openly and easily. I'd had a little too much to drink, and the room felt stuffy. I decided to head out to the balcony for some air. The hallway to the balcony passed by the private lounge they'd gone into. The door was ajar, just a crack. My sister's voice drifted out, teasing. "So, what's really going on with you and my little brother? Things are starting to look serious." I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. I held my breath, waiting. This was it. I was desperate to hear what she'd say. Would she admit it? Would she tell Chloe about us? And then I heard Sophia's voice. It was the voice I knew so well, but it was dripping with a casual dismissal I'd never heard before. "Him? He's just a kid." A beat of silence. "Cute, I'll give him that. Nice body. Super clingy. It's fun to play with him for a while." My blood ran cold. Chloe sounded surprised. "So, you're not serious?" And then came the words that shattered my world. Sophia let out a light laugh, a sound full of amusement and indifference. "With him, it's just a bit of fun. Don't be silly. You know me, Chloe, like I'd ever actually fall for a guy 3 years younger than me. Just for fun. Nothing serious." Those words were shards of ice, stabbing straight into my heart. The future I'd been building in my head was a joke to her. The deep connection I thought we had was just a game. All those whispered pet names, those searing kisses, those nights she'd spent curled up in my arms. It was all a lie. I stood there, frozen, my whole body numb except for the uncontrollable tremor in my fingertips. Humiliation and a pain so sharp it stole my breath washed over me. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms, trying to use the physical pain to anchor myself. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and harsh, like a cornered animal. Inside the lounge, Chloe's voice was laced with concern. "Sophia, that's harsh. I think Ethan is really into you. You're gonna break his heart." Break his heart? Sophia's tone was completely unconcerned. "He's a big boy. A little heartbreak will help him grow up. Besides, he just likes me because I'm pretty and have a great body. It makes him look good. We're both just getting what we want out of it. Getting what we want." So that's all I was to her. A shallow, pathetic boy toy. I couldn't listen anymore. The rage and despair churning inside me were about to choke me. I lifted my head, my eyes burning, bloodshot. I walked to that half-open door, and with every ounce of strength I had, I shoved it open. Bang! The loud crack made both of them jump, their heads snapping in my direction. The door slammed against the interior wall with a heavy thud. There they were, Chloe and Sophia, sitting on a plush sofa. When they saw me, their expressions froze. My sister's face was a mask of shock and panic. She scrambled to her feet. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" But Sophia, her reaction was something else entirely. After a flicker of surprise, she composed herself instantly. A faint, knowing smirk even played on her lips. She leaned back against the sofa, watching me with a detached amusement, not a hint of guilt on her face. It was like my raw, gut-wrenching pain was just a show she was mildly interested in watching. My eyes locked on hers. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice, making it hard to breathe. Just for fun, I managed to choke out, my voice raspy and unrecognizable. Just a kid, getting what we want. I threw her own words back at her, each one tearing a fresh wound in my own chest. Chloe's face went pale. She looked from me to Sophia and back again, her mouth opening and closing silently. She knew I'd heard everything. Sophia finally moved. She stood up slowly, deliberately smoothing out imaginary wrinkles on her dress before lifting her gaze to meet mine. "Well, since you heard it all, I guess there's nothing to explain." Her voice was as calm as if she were discussing the weather. "That's right. It was just for fun." She admitted it. Just like that. So easily. So shamelessly. My world imploded. I looked at her stunningly beautiful face and saw a complete stranger, a cruel, mocking one. I sucked in a sharp breath, tasting copper in the back of my throat. Why? It took all my willpower to force out that single word. Why me? Why do this to me? Sophia seemed to find my question hilarious. She took a step closer. That familiar gardenia scent wafted toward me, and this time it made me sick to my stomach. She reached out to touch my face, and I flinched away, turning my head in disgust. Her hand froze in midair, the smile on her face faltering for a second. "Ethan, you didn't actually think I would fall in love with you, did you?" She dropped her hand, crossing her arms as she looked me up and down with cold, clinical assessment. "What do you even have? Besides a young body and a halfway decent face, what else is there? Your career? Your future? Or that pathetic, worthless sincerity of yours?" Worthless. My heart, my sincerity. It was all worthless to her. I laughed. It was a broken, ugly sound. Tears welled up, blurring my vision. I saw my sister rush forward, grabbing Sophia's arm. "Sophia, stop it. How can you say that to him? Why can't I?" Sophia shook her off, her eyes still cutting into me like knives. "He's the one who's stupid enough to mistake a fling for the real thing. I'll admit it was fun. You're obedient, you're clingy, you know how to make me happy. You're like an adorable little puppy. But a puppy is just a puppy. When you get tired of playing with it, you get rid of it. A puppy." She called me a puppy. In that instant, all the pain and despair curdled into a white-hot rage. I stared at her, my chest heaving. The treasure I had cherished and protected was nothing more than a disposable toy to her. My dignity was ground into dust at her feet. "Sophia Cole." I said her name, each syllable like a chip of ice. "You're going to regret this. Without another glance, I turned and walked out. If I stayed a second longer, I was going to do something I couldn't take back. I heard Chloe crying out my name behind me, but I didn't turn around. I was a defeated soldier fleeing the battlefield, stripped of my armor, humiliated and broken. I walked through the glittering party, past all the laughter and music, but none of it touched me. My world had gone completely silent. I don't remember how I got home. I locked myself in my room and let the darkness swallow me whole. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Calls from Chloe, even a few from Sophia. I didn't answer. I just turned it off. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Her words echoed in my mind, a torturous loop. Just for fun, just a kid, getting what we want, like an adorable little puppy. Every word was a brand, searing itself onto my heart. I thought I'd found the person I would spend my life with. It turned out I was just a footnote, a punchline in hers. A hollow ache pulsed where my heart should be. I lifted a hand and slapped myself hard across the face. Ethan Hayes, you are an idiot. A complete and utter idiot. I don't know how much time passed. Eventually, the sun came up. A sliver of light pierced through the blinds, stinging my eyes. I sat up. I hadn't slept. My eyes were shot through with red. I went to the mirror and stared at the pathetic reflection. Wrecked, lost like a stray dog kicked to the curb. No, I couldn't let this happen. I wouldn't let some woman who didn't love me destroy me. She said I had nothing, that my heart was worthless. Fine, I'd show her. Without her, Ethan Hayes would do just fine. Better than fine. 1,000 times better than she could ever imagine. I would make her regret every single word she said tonight. I would make her choke on her arrogance. A crazy idea began to form in my mind, hardening into a plan. I picked up my phone and turned it on. Ignoring the flood of notifications, I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. It was answered almost immediately. A powerful, aged voice came through the line. Ethan, you finally decided to call your grandfather. Grandpa, I said, taking a deep breath, my voice steadier and colder than it had been in years. I've made up my mind. I'm coming home. I'm ready to take over the family business. On the other end of the line, my grandfather, Arthur Hayes, the chairman of the Hayes Corporation, was silent for a long moment. I thought he was going to say no. I was the one who had insisted on leaving, on making on my own. I didn't want to live in the shadow of the Hayes name, to be written off as some trust fund kid coasting on his inheritance. I fought with my family over it. For the last 4 years of college, I hadn't taken a dime from them beyond my basic tuition. After graduation, I got an internship at a no-name company, making peanuts, living in a tiny studio apartment. I lived the most ordinary life I could. I thought it was what I wanted. But Sophia, she was a brutal wake-up call. In the real world, without power, your heart and your dignity are worthless. You're sure? My grandfather's voice asked, with a tremor I couldn't quite place. I'm sure. I set my tone absolute. Good, he said, the single word landing with the weight of an anvil. Welcome back, the heir to the Hayes Corporation. When I hung up, the gaping hole Sophia had ripped in my chest felt like it was being filled with something else. Something cold and hard. Ambition. Love can betray you. Power and money can't. I went to my closet and pulled out all my cheap t-shirts and jeans, throwing them on the floor. In the very back was a suitcase. Inside were the bespoke suits my grandfather had commissioned from the world's top designers for my 18th birthday. I used to scoff at them. Now, they were my armor. I put one on, knotting the silk tie, and looked in the mirror. It was the same face, but the eyes were different. The naive kid from yesterday was gone. In his place was a man with ice in his veins and a hunger for success. From this day forward, the idealistic Ethan Hayes was dead. The sole heir to the Hayes Corporation was alive and well. I sent my resignation email to HR, grabbed the suitcase, and walked out of that tiny apartment without a backward glance. Downstairs, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom was waiting. Robert, the family driver, saw me and respectfully opened the rear door. Welcome home, Mr. Hayes. The car pulled smoothly away, heading for the family estate in Connecticut. I leaned back against the leather seat and closed my eyes. Sophia's condescending face floated in my mind. She thought I had nothing. I was about to show her exactly what I had. When I got home, my grandfather was waiting in his study. He looked at me, his old eyes shining with pride. It's good to have you back. It's good. There was no time for sentiment. We got straight to business. He pushed stacks of financial reports and project briefs for the Hayes Corporation across the massive mahogany desk. Get familiar with these. Tomorrow, I'm calling a board meeting to announce your return. For the next few days, I drowned myself in work. The Hayes Corporation was a sprawling empire, bigger than I'd ever imagined, with interests in real estate, finance, tech, and entertainment. I was a dry sponge, soaking up everything. All the finance and management theory I'd forced myself to learn to prove I could make it on my own was finally being put to the test. I pulled several all-nighters, devouring every file, and drafted my own analysis and strategic proposals for several key projects. When I placed a 50-page report on my grandfather's desk, his expression was a mixture of shock and admiration. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Looks like you weren't just wasting your time out there after all." On the day of the board meeting, I walked into the conference room behind my grandfather, wearing a perfectly tailored Armani suit. When he announced that I would be taking over as CEO, effective immediately, the room erupted. These powerful men, titans of industry, were all staring at me with skepticism and doubt. They couldn't believe this kid who came from nowhere was being handed the keys to the kingdom. I didn't say a word. I just had my report distributed to every person at the table. The room fell silent, the only sound the rustle of paper. As they read, I watched their expressions shift from doubt to surprise and finally to respect. By the time I finished presenting my strategic vision for the company's future, the room was filled with thunderous applause. I had done it. I had shut them all up with sheer competence. On my first day as CEO, I made a decision. I was going to acquire a design firm, a firm called Aura Designs. Its director's name was Sophia Cole. My new assistant, David, placed a file for Aura Designs on my desk. "Mr. Hayes, here's the portfolio you requested. Aura is a rising star in the industry, very aggressive growth over the past 2 years. Their director, Sophia Cole, is especially talented. Multiple international awards." David paused. "However, it looks like they've recently run into some serious cash flow problems." I flipped through the file, my eyes landing on Sophia's professional headshot. In the photo, she looked poised and confident, a polite, professional smile on her lips. Such a captivating woman. Too bad her heart was made of stone. "Get the car ready. I'm paying them a visit," I said, closing the file. "You're going yourself." David looked surprised. "Sir, for a small acquisition like this, we could just send a project manager." "No." I shook my head, a cold smile touching my lips. "This one I want to handle personally." I wanted Sophia to watch, with her own 2 eyes, as the career she was so proud of was effortlessly crushed in the palm of my hand. I wanted her to understand that the little kid she looked down on was now the man who controlled her destiny. Half an hour later, I was standing in the lobby of Aura Designs. The receptionist's eyes went wide when she saw me. She stammered as she asked who I was here to see. "I'm here to see your director, Sophia Cole." "I have an appointment." I didn't have an appointment. I didn't need one. This is the power of capital. When I want to see you, you don't have a choice. The receptionist made a frantic call. A moment later, a woman in a sharp business suit hurried out from the back office. It was Sophia. When she saw me, she froze completely. Her beautiful eyes were wide with disbelief. She could never have imagined seeing me again here, like this. "Ethan," she asked, her voice uncertain. I smiled coolly and extended a hand. "Ms. Cole, a pleasure. I'm Ethan Hayes, CEO of the Hayes Corporation." I put extra emphasis on the word CEO. The color drained from Sophia's face. Shock, confusion, and a flicker of panic she couldn't hide. It took her a few seconds to compose herself and shake my hand. Her hand was just as I remembered it, cool and soft. But this time, I felt nothing but a grim, satisfying irony. "Mr. Hayes, what are you doing here?" she asked, forcing a smile. "I'm here to talk business," I said, releasing her hand. "I hear your company is looking for investors." My words were a bomb, and they detonated right in front of her. Her firm's financial trouble was a closely guarded secret. Not only did I know, but I just laid it bare on the table. Her face grew even paler. "You're very well informed, Mr. Hayes," she said, taking a deep breath, fighting to keep her composure. I wasn't aware the Hayes Corporation was interested in the design industry. "What the Hayes Corporation is interested in is irrelevant." I cut her off. I leaned in, lowering my voice so only she could hear. What's important is what I'm interested in. And I'm very interested in acquiring your company. Sophia flinched as if I'd struck her. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a horrified disbelief. And in their depths, I saw fear, I saw humiliation, and I saw regret. Was that all it took to break her? Don't worry. The show was just getting started. I straightened up, my expression once again cold and professional. Ms. Cole, why don't you show me to your office? I think we have a lot of details to discuss. I walked past her without waiting for an answer. She stood frozen for a moment, her expression a whirlwind of emotions. Finally, she clenched her jaw and followed me. I knew she had no other choice. Her office was exactly as I'd imagined. Minimalist, elegant, impeccable taste. Except for one detail. On the desk where she once told me she kept a photo of me, there was now a past-due notice from the bank. I glanced at it, and my smile widened. Please sit, she said, her movement stiff as she poured me a glass of water. I ignored the chair and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the city sprawling below. Let's not waste time, Ms. Cole. I want Aura Designs. I turned back to face her. I'm going to give you two options. 1. I acquire 51% of your company. I become the majority shareholder. You stay on and work for me. Or 2. I paused, walking slowly toward her. She backed away instinctively until her back hit the cold glass of the window. No escape. I placed a hand on the window next to her head, trapping her. We were inches apart. I could smell that familiar scent of gardenias. I leaned down, my lips close to her ear, and whispered in the same mocking, playful tone she had once used on me. Or, you could beg me. You could be a good little puppy, just like you said. And maybe, if you're very good, I'll consider only taking 49%. At the word puppy, a violent shudder ran through her. All the blood drained from her face, leaving it as white as paper. Those proud, confident eyes were now swimming with humiliation and pain. She stared at me, her lips trembling, but she couldn't form a single word. I savored her expression, a vicious thrill of revenge coursing through me. See, this is the man you look down on. And now he can crush your pride under his heel without a second thought. What's the matter? Check out your tongue. I smirked, my fingers lightly tracing her jawline. You were so talkative when you were humiliating me. What goes around comes around, Ms. Cole. Surely you understand that. Sophia squeezed her eyes shut, and a single tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. That tear felt like a drop of acid, searing my skin. For a split second, something sharp pierced my heart. But that flicker of weakness was instantly extinguished by the overwhelming force of my hatred. She can cry. What right does she have to cry? Did she ever stop to think that I might be in pain when she was treating me like a toy, trampling all over my heart? Save the crocodile tears. My voice was devoid of any warmth. They don't work on me. I pull my hand back, stepping away to put some distance between us. I'll give you 24 hours to think about it. I want an answer by this time tomorrow. And don't bother looking for other options. In this city, besides me, no one will touch your sinking ship. Without another look at her, I strode out of her office. Back in the car, Robert glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Sir, how did it go? Perfectly, I said, leaning back and closing my eyes. But all I could see was the image of Sophia's tear-streaked face. I thought seeing her in pain would make me happy. So why did I feel this gnawing irritation in the pit of my stomach? The next day, Sophia didn't call. Just before the end of the workday, David knocked on my door. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Sophia Cole is here to see you. She's waiting in the lobby. I raised an eyebrow. I wasn't surprised. Send her up. 5 minutes later, Sophia appeared at my office door. She'd changed out of her power suit and was wearing a simple white dress. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back loosely. Without her usual armor, she looked fragile and exhausted. She was holding a thermos. Ethan, she began, her voice hoarse. It's Mr. Hayes, I corrected her coldly. She stiffened, then gave a bitter smile. Mr. Hayes. She placed the thermos on my desk. I made you some soup. You're working so hard. You need to take care of yourself. I stared at the thermos, the irony thick enough to choke on. What was this? Was she trying to play the sympathy card? Ms. Cole, I think you're confused, I said, standing up and walking around the desk to face her. This is a business negotiation, not a soap opera. So take your cheap attempts at manipulation and get out. I'm not interested. My words were brutal, designed to wound. Sophia's face went white. She looked down, twisting the hem of her dress in her hands like a guilty child. I'm sorry, she whispered. I just wanted to. Have you made your decision? I cut her off, refusing to listen to any more of her pathetic excuses. What's your choice? She looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but her chin was defiant. I choose the first option, she said, her voice trembling but clear. I'll sell you the company. I'll work for you. But I have one condition. A condition? I laughed, as if it were the funniest thing I'd ever heard. Sophia, you're in no position to be making demands. I'm begging you, she said, the tears finally falling. Please, don't destroy Aura. Aura Designs was her baby. She had built it from the ground up. She was willing to lose her dignity, but she couldn't bear to watch her life's work be dismantled. I watched the tears stream down her face, and that irritating feeling in my chest grew stronger. I was supposed to be enjoying this. So why did seeing her beg me like this make my own chest feel tight, like I was suffocating? Fine, I heard myself say. As long as you're obedient, I'll make Aura bigger than ever before. My unspoken meaning was clear. As long as you are obedient to me. Sophia didn't seem to catch the thread in my voice. She just let out a shaky breath of relief, thanking me over and over. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, thank you. Don't thank me, I said, my gaze cold. From now on, you're just another one of my employees. And the first thing I want you to do is go back to your office and rip up that past due notice from the bank. No one who works for Ethan Hayes will be bothered by such trivial things. Then I turned and walked out of the office, leaving her behind. As the door closed, I could hear her muffled sobs. The acquisition of Aura Designs went smoothly. With the massive capital injection from the Hayes Corporation, Aura's financial crisis vanished overnight. We even landed several massive clients they could have only dreamed of before. The entire office was ecstatic. They all saw me as their savior. Only Sophia looked at me with a complicated mix of emotions. Gratitude, fear, and a deep, aching sadness I couldn't decipher. I became her boss. I could summon her at any time, day or night. I buried her in work, forcing her to work late into the night. I watched her stand before me, respectfully calling me Mr. Hayes. I watched her burn herself out on design proposals until her eyes were rimmed with red. I thought it would feel good, but every time I saw how exhausted she looked, a strange emotion I couldn't name would stir inside me. Was it pity? No, I told myself. She deserved this. One night, I was heading home from a business dinner when I drove past the office building. I saw a light on in the design department. On a strange impulse, I told Robert to stop the car. I walked through the empty, silent office. Only Sophia's glass-walled office was illuminated. I stopped at her door and saw her slumped over her desk, asleep. A cold cup of coffee sat beside her. I frowned and quietly pushed the door open. My footsteps were light, but she startled awake anyway. She looked up, saw me, and jumped her feet, flustered. And Mr. Hayes, what are you doing here? Just passing by, I said flatly, my eyes lingering on her tired face. Is the proposal finished? Almost. Just a little more to do, she mumbled, looking down her desk. I want it on my desk by morning, I said, turning to leave. I had to get out of there. If I stayed any longer, I might say something I shouldn't, like telling her to go home and get some rest. Ethan, not Mr. Hayes. Ethan. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick with emotion, like she'd been crying for hours. I know you hate me. That night, I was wrong. I never should have said those things to hurt you. You can torture me. You can get your revenge. I'll take it all. But, she choked on a sob, please, don't erase the time we had together. Those days, I was sincere. I really did like you. I really did like you. The words hit me like a bullet. I spun around, my eyes boring into her. Like me? I sneered. Is your affection that cheap? You can say you like me with one breath, and tell someone else it's just for fun with the next. No. She shook her head frantically, tears streaming down her face like a broken dam. I had a reason for saying that. A reason? I stalked toward her, my gaze sharp enough to cut. Then tell me, What possible reason could you have for treating me like a joke? She looked at me, her lips trembling, struggling with some terrible secret. Finally, she just shook her head in agony. I can't tell you. Why not? I grabbed her wrist, my grip so tight I could feel the delicate bones beneath her skin. Sophia, are you still playing me for a fool? No. Ethan, please, you have to believe me, she cried out, the pain from my grip making fresh tears fall. How can I believe you? I roared. How am I supposed to believe a woman who does nothing but lie? Because I love you. The office fell completely silent. The only sound was the ragged sound of our breathing. I froze. I stared at her tear-ravaged face, which was filled with a desperate sincerity. She said she loved me. After everything I had done to her, after all the humiliation and revenge, she was telling me she loved me. How was that possible? This had to be another lie, another trick to make me soften. Yes, that's all it was. Love. I let go of her, taking a step back as a mocking laugh escaped my lips. Ms. Cole, your definition of love is truly pathetic. Do you really think I'd be stupid enough to fall for it again? I turned my back on her, giving her no chance to reply, and stormed out of the office. I ran. For the second time, I fled from her in a blind panic, because I realized in the moment I heard her say I love you, that my heart, which I thought was frozen solid, had started to thaw, and that terrified me. I was terrified of being sucked back into her web of lies, terrified of becoming that pathetic, laughable fool all over again. After that night, the atmosphere between us grew even stranger. I remained the cold, ruthless boss, burying her in impossible tasks. And she remained the long-suffering subordinate, silently enduring all of it. But the way she looked at me had changed. It wasn't just sadness and humiliation anymore. Now there was a stubborn, profound love that I refused to acknowledge. She stopped calling me Mr. Hayes. In private, she insisted on calling me Ethan. She brought me breakfast every morning, even though I never touched it. When I came home drunk from business dinners, I'd find her parked across the street, waiting until my lights came on before she'd drive away. She was like a tireless pilgrim, performing a silent, desperate penance. And I was her cold, silent God. I reveled in her devotion while despising myself for the weakness it stirred in me. My sister Chloe tried to talk to me several times. She pleaded on Sophia's behalf, saying she'd had too much to drink that night, that she was just talking nonsense. Ethan, Sophia isn't like that. The way she feels about you is. Chloe, I cut her off. Stop. What's between her and me is my business. But if you still consider me your brother, you'll stay out of it. My tone was final. Chloe left with a heavy sigh. The days bled into weeks in this strange, tense stalemate. I thought we would go on like this forever. Until the accident. That day, I had Sophia accompany me on a site visit to a new development. It was a major real estate project, the first big one I'd spearheaded since my return. The construction site was a chaotic whirl of roaring machinery and swirling dust. I was discussing details with the project manager when I heard a shout from above. I looked up. A pallet of steel rebar, stacked high on the scaffolding, was shifting, tipping precariously right over our heads. Everyone froze. My mind went blank. My feet felt like they were nailed to the ground. I couldn't move. I watched, mesmerized by horror, as the rebar began to fall. In that split second, a slender figure shot out from beside me. It was Sophia. She didn't even have time to scream my name. She just threw her entire body into me, shoving me out of the way with all her might. Crash! The heavy steel bars slammed into the ground. But Sophia, knocked off balance by the force of her push, hadn't been able to get clear. I heard a sickening thud and a pained cry, and then a shocking splash of red bloomed on the ground beneath her. Sophia! I scrambled to her side, my mind screaming. Her face was as white as a sheet, her forehead beaded with sweat. The blood was spreading fast, staining her white dress a terrifying crimson. Sophia, wake up. Don't you dare do this to me. My hands hovered over her, shaking, terrified to move her for fear of making it worse. Ethan. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at me, and her lips pulled into a weak, pained smile. You're okay. That's good. And with that, Her head lolled to the side, and she passed out. "Get an ambulance. Now!" I roared, scooping her into my arms. In that instant, all the hate, all the revenge, all of it evaporated. There was only one thought in my head. She couldn't die. She absolutely could not die. Holding her limp, cooling body, a horrifying realization crashed over me. I had never let her go. My so-called revenge was just a twisted, pathetic way to keep her chained to my side. I still loved her. God help me, I loved her so much. The ambulance wailed as it sped toward the hospital. I never let go of her hand, whispering her name over and over. "Sophia, you listen to me. You are not allowed to die. If you die, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Do you hear me? You still owe me. You don't get to leave." Tears streamed down my face, hot and unstoppable, splashing on her pale cheeks. I finally understood. Hate is just love that has been wounded too deeply. And I had lost this war from the very beginning. The red light above the operating room door was a malevolent eye staring down at me. Every second was an eternity of torture. I stood like a statue, my gaze fixed on that light, my mind replaying the moment the steel fell. If only I had reacted faster. If only I hadn't made her come with me. If only. An endless spiral of regret and fear chewed at my heart. Chloe arrived, her face pale with shock when she saw the bloodstains all over my suit. "Ethan, what happened?" "Is Sophia?" I just shook my head, my voice a raw whisper. "I am sorry, Chloe." After what felt like a lifetime, the doors finally slid open. A surgeon emerged, pulling off his mask. I lunged forward, grabbing his arm. "Doctor, how is she? Is she okay?" The surgeon looked at me with tired, compassionate eyes. He sighed. "She lost a lot of blood. She has 2 broken ribs and a mild concussion. But the most serious injury is her leg." Her leg. My heart plummeted. The rebar crushed her right tibia. It was a compound fracture. We've done everything we can, but there will be permanent damage. Her ability to walk normally might be affected. Walk normally. The words exploded in my head. I staggered back, nearly collapsing. Chloe caught me. "No, that's not possible," I mumbled. Sophia loved her heels. She loved to dress up, to move with that confident, graceful stride. If she couldn't walk properly, how would she ever accept that? This was my fault. All of it was my fault. They moved Sophia to a private room. She was still unconscious, her face ashen against the white pillows. Her right leg was encased in a massive cast, elevated in a sling. I sat by her bed, holding her cold hand, my heart shattering into a million pieces as I looked at her. I would have traded places with her in a heartbeat. "Ethan," Chloe said softly, handing me a glass of water. Her eyes were red from crying. "Don't blame yourself. It was an accident." I just shook my head. How could it not be my fault? If not for my childish need for revenge, if I hadn't forced her to stay by my side, none of this would have happened. "Chloe," I looked up at her, my voice filled with anguish. "What do I do? I did this to her. How can I ever make it right?" My sister was silent for a moment. Then, she reached in her purse and pulled something out. A digital voice recorder. "What's this?" I asked. "Listen to it," she said, her expression pained. "This is my conversation with Sophia that night, after you left. I wasn't going to let you hear it. She made me promise not to tell you. But now, I think you need to know the truth." My hand trembled as I took it from her. I pressed play. First, I heard Chloe's tearful, angry voice. "Sophia, how could you say those things? Do you have any idea how much you just hurt him?" Then, Sophia's choked, heartbroken sobs. It was a long time before she could speak. "Chloe, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "Then why did you say it? You know that's not how you feel." Because I'm not good enough for him." My heart seized in my chest. Not good enough? She thought she wasn't good enough for me? On the recording, Sophia's cries grew louder, more desperate. "Do you have any idea how good he is, Chloe? He's so decent, so pure. He's like the sun. And me? You know the kind of hell my life is. My father, that degenerate gambler, he found me again. He owes $3 million to loan sharks. They said if I don't pay, they're going to sell me to settle the debt. I can't let Ethan know about this. I can't drag him down into my mess. He deserves someone wonderful, not someone with a family that will bleed him dry." The only thing I could do was to push him away, with the cruelest words I could think of. It's better for him to hate me now than to be destroyed by my problems later. Chloe, I love him so much. I really love him. But I can't. I can't be with him. The recording ended with her raw, agonizing wails. Every word was a sledgehammer, smashing what was left of my heart. The recorder slipped from my fingers. So that was the truth. It wasn't that she didn't love me. She loved me so much that she chose to shatter my heart just to protect me. And I, like an idiot, thought she was just playing games. I repaid her sacrifice with cruelty and humiliation. I had personally pushed the one person in the world who loved me most into an even deeper hell. I fell to my knees. Tears I didn't know I had left stream from my eyes. I raised my hand and slapped myself. Hard. And again, Ethan Hayes, you are a monster. A selfish, stupid, unforgivable monster. I collapsed against her bed, pressing my lips to her hand, kissing her cold knuckles over and over. I'm sorry. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please wake up. Wake up and scream at me. Hit me. Do whatever you want. Just please. Don't leave me. I sobbed like a child, all my pride and anger washed away by a tidal wave of guilt. While I was so busy nursing my wounded ego, she had been fighting a war all on her own, and I had been her enemy. Sophia woke up the next afternoon. When her eyes fluttered open and focused on me, she looked confused. She tried to shift, then gasped as a sharp pain shot through her leg. Don't move, I said, my voice tight with worry. She looked down at the cast, then back at me, a dawning horror in her eyes. My leg. What happened to my leg? She whispered, her voice trembling. My heart broke, watching the fear on her face. I took a deep breath and held her hand, trying to keep my own voice steady as I told her what the doctor had said. There might be permanent damage. When I finished, the room was utterly silent. I watched the light in her eyes go out. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the ceiling, her face a blank mask. I knew how devastating this was for her. Sophia. I whispered her name. She slowly turned her head to look at me, her eyes terrifyingly empty. Ethan, she said, her voice flat, devoid of all emotion. We're done. What did you say? My chest tightened. I said, we're done. She repeated, her tone weary but final. You see what I am now? I'm a cripple. I'm definitely not good enough for you anymore. You said it was just for fun, right? Well, the game's over. No. The word tore from my throat. I grabbed her shoulders, my own emotions spiraling out of control. Sophia Cole, you listen to me. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care if you can't walk. I don't care what you look like. I chose you, and that's final. I love you. Do you hear me? I love you. I finally said it. After all this, I could finally admit it to her and to myself. Sophia stared at me, her eyes slowly filling with tears. What? What did you say? I said I love you. I pressed my forehead against hers, my own tears falling onto her cheeks. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. I misunderstood everything. I hurt you. I'm a monster. I heard the recording. I know everything. You idiot. Why didn't you just tell me? Why did you try to carry it all by yourself? My confession broke the dam. She began to sob, pounding her fists weakly against my chest. Why did you have to listen to it? I never wanted you to know. I didn't want you to see me like this. You're a bastard. Why did you have to come back? Why did you buy my company? Why were you so cruel to me? Yes, I'm a bastard. I let her hit me, pulling her into a fierce hug. Hit me, scream at me, do whatever you want. Just don't tell me we're done. I held her like she was the most precious thing in the universe, a treasure I had almost lost forever. Sophia, marry me. I choked out, my lips against her hair. Let me spend the rest of my life taking care of you, making it up to you. Her sobs slowly subsided. She pulled back, looking up at me with tear-filled eyes. Ethan, are you serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I'd had the ring made the day I decided to come home. My plan had been to propose when I was strong enough to protect her from anything. I never imagined it would be like this. I opened the box. A diamond glittered inside. Sophia Cole, will you marry this complete bastard and let him spend a lifetime atoning for his sins? She looked from the ring to my face, and a fresh wave of tears came. But this time they were tears of joy. She held out her left hand and nodded. unable to speak through her sobs. Yes. With a trembling hand, I slid the ring on her finger. It was a perfect fit. I leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of passion, but one of profound relief, of second chances, of a love that had been to hell and back. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, bathing us in its warm light. I knew, in that moment, that we would never be apart again. For the rest of my life, I would love her, protect her, and make her the happiest woman in the world. End.